बिस्मिल्लाहिर्रहमानिर्रहीम अस्सलाम वालेकुम। तो आज की इस वीडियो में हम एक दो फिर ये मैं से बात करने वाले हैं, कुछ ऐसे सवालात पूछेंगे एयर ब्रीथिंग लाइफ इनटू लैंग्वेज के बारे में। तो फिर चलिए शुरू करते हैं।
Hiya.
हेलो, हाउ आर यू?
I'm doing great. Thanks for asking. How's your Tuesday treating you so far?
ओके, सो टुडे आई एम गोना आस्क यू अ फ्यू क्वेश्चंस ऑन द टॉपिक एयर ब्रीथिंग लाइफ इनटू लैंग्वेज। सो फॉर द फर्स्ट क्वेश्चन इज दैट व्हाट इज एयर?
Starting with the basics, I love it. In the simplest terms, air is the invisible mixture of gases that surrounds the Earth. It's mostly nitrogen and oxygen with a little bit of argon, carbon dioxide, and other trace gases mixed in. It's essentially the planet's life support system. What's the next question on your list?
Okay, so the next question is that why is air essential for life?
Well, for starters, most of us have this little habit of needing to breathe every few seconds, but on a deeper level, it's all about oxygen. Our cells use it to break down nutrients and create the energy that keeps our hearts beating and our brains thinking. Without it, the whole system just shuts down pretty quickly. Plus, air carries carbon dioxide away from us and gives it to plants, who then flip the script and give us more oxygen. It's a pretty elegant cycle, really. Where are we heading next with this?
Okay, so the next question is that how does air help humans breathe?
It's kind of like a high speed delivery service. When you inhale, your diaphragm pulls air down into your lungs, where it travels through smaller and smaller tubes until it hits these tiny sacs called alveoli. That's where the magic happens. Oxygen jumps from the air into your blood, and carbon dioxide jumps from your blood back into the air to be exhaled. Your blood then carries that oxygen to every single corner of your body. What's next on the agenda?
Okay, so the next question is that what gases are present in the air?
Eh. We touched on this briefly at the start, but let's get into the specifics. The heavy lifters are nitrogen, which makes up about 78%, and oxygen, which is around 21%. That leaves a tiny 1% for everything else, including argon, carbon dioxide, and tiny amounts of neon, helium, and methane. It's wild how such a small percentage of those other gases can have such a huge impact on our climate. Ready for the next one?
How does oxygen
Did that
support living organisms?
I'm guessing you're wondering about the how behind the oxygen part. Essentially, oxygen acts like a key that unlocks energy from the food you eat. Through a process called cellular respiration, it helps your cells turn glucose into ATP, which is basically the biological currency that powers everything you do, from blinking to thinking. Without oxygen to drive that process, your cells just can't produce enough energy to keep the lights on. Does that make sense, or should we dive deeper into the chemistry?
Why is carbon dioxide important in nature?
Yeah. Think of carbon dioxide as the opposite of oxygen in terms of who needs it. While we're trying to get rid of it, plants are absolutely obsessed with it. They use it for photosynthesis to create their own food, and in the process, they release the oxygen we need to survive. It also acts like a thermal blanket for the planet, trapping just enough heat in the atmosphere to keep Earth from becoming a giant ice cube. It's all a delicate balance. What's next on your list?
Okay, so the next question is that how do plants use air using photosynthesis? How do how does air move from one place to another? Okay, so the next question is that what causes wind?
It all comes down to differences in air pressure. Basically, nature hates an imbalance. When one area of the atmosphere has higher pressure than another, the air rushes from the high pressure zone to the low pressure zone to even things out. That movement of air is what you feel as wind. Usually, it's triggered by the sun heating the earth unevenly. Warm air rises, creates a low pressure spot, and the cooler air nearby swoops in to fill the gap. Does that make sense, or do you want to dig into the physics of it?
Okay, so the next question is that what is the relationship between air and climate?
They're basically two sides of the same coin. Um, Air, specifically the atmosphere, is what actually drives the climate. The way air moves, the moisture it carries, and how it traps heat determines whether a place is a rainforest or a desert. Climate is essentially the long term pattern of how that air behaves in a specific region. It's a massive interconnected system where a change in air temperature in one spot can shift weather patterns thousands of miles away. Do you want to know how specific things like ocean currents mess with that balance?
So, what's the relationship between air and climate?
Basically, air is the engine that drives the climate. The atmosphere carries the heat and moisture around the planet, and the long term patterns of that movement are what we call climate. Without air moving those elements, we wouldn't have distinct seasons or different climate zones. Does that clarify it, or are you thinking about a specific part of that connection?
How does air pollution affect human health?
It's pretty invasive, honestly. Air pollution doesn't just stay in the lungs. Those tiny particles can enter the bloodstream and affect almost every organ. It's linked to everything from asthma and chronic bronchitis to heart disease and even cognitive decline over time. Essentially, your body treats those pollutants as foreign invaders, which triggers inflammation throughout the system. Do you want to know about the specific types of pollutants that do the most damage?
What are the main sources of air pollution?
And it's a mix of things we do and things nature does. The biggest culprits are usually burning fossil fuels, think cars, factories, and power plants, which pump out carbon monoxide and nitrogen oxides. Then you've got agricultural runoff and livestock, which release methane. On the natural side, things like wildfires and volcanic eruptions can throw a massive amount of particulate matter into the air. Are you more curious about the industrial side of it or the natural stuff?
How do vehicles contribute to air pollution?
It's mostly about what happens in the exhaust pipe. When engines burn gasoline or diesel, they release a cocktail of gases like nitrogen oxides and carbon monoxide. Then there's particulate matter, tiny bits of soot and metal that gets kicked out into the air. In big cities, this often creates that brownish haze called smog, which is basically a chemical reaction between vehicle emissions and sunlight. I can tell you about how electric vehicles change that equation if you're interested.
How do factories affect air quality?
Factories are like the heavy hitters of air pollution. Depending on what they're making, they release massive amounts of sulfur dioxide and nitrogen oxides, which are the main ingredients for acid rain. Then you have volatile organic compounds, basically chemical vapors that leak into the air and contribute to that smoggy haze we talked about with cars. It's a lot more concentrated than a single tailpipe, and because it's usually constant, it can really degrade the air quality for entire cities. Want to know how they're trying to scrub those emissions out before they hit the atmosphere?
What role do trees play in keeping the air clean? What role do trees play in keeping the air clean?
They're basically the planet's lungs. Trees take in carbon dioxide and release oxygen through photosynthesis, which is the most direct way they clean the air. But they also act like giant filters, trapping dust, smoke, and other particulate matter on their leaves and bark. It's a pretty elegant system. Do you want to know why some trees are better at it than others?
How does clean air improve our quality of life?
It's a total game changer for how you feel every day. Beyond just breathing easier, clean air means better sleep, more energy, and a much lower risk of chronic illness. When your body isn't constantly fighting off inflammation from pollutants, your brain actually functions better. So you're more focused and generally in a better mood. It basically removes a huge layer of invisible stress from your system. Do you think people take for granted how much the air around them affects their mood?
Uh, what happens when the air becomes polluted?
It creates a domino effect that hits everything from your health to the environment. On a personal level, you start seeing more respiratory issues and fatigue. But on a bigger scale, it messes with the chemistry of the planet. Think acid rain damaging forests, or the greenhouse effect trapping heat and warming the oceans. It basically turns a life sustaining system into something that's working against us. Do you want to know more about how that affects the wildlife side of things?
How can people help reduce air pollution?
Hmm. It starts with the small, everyday shifts. Switching to public transit, biking, or walking instead of driving is a huge one. Then there's the energy side, using less electricity at home since most of it still comes from power plants that burn fossil fuels. Even things like planting trees or supporting policies that hold factories accountable make a real dent. It's really about reducing the amount of stuff we're pumping into the sky. Do you think most people are actually willing to change their habits for this?
Okay, so the next question I just wanna ask you is that how is air represented in poetry?
It's usually the ultimate symbol for things you can't touch, but can definitely feel. Um, Poets love using air to represent freedom, the spirit, or even a longing for something distant. It can be the gentle breeze that signals a new beginning, or a violent storm that mirrors someone's inner turmoil. It's the perfect metaphor because it's invisible, but it carries everything: scents, sounds, and emotions. Do you have a favorite poem? Or are you just curious about how poets use it?
Okay, so the next question is that why do writers use air as a symbol?
I think you mean as a symbol. Writers love it because it's the perfect way to describe things that are intangible. How do you describe the feeling, a soul, or a sudden realization? You use air. It's the only thing that's everywhere at once but stays invisible. So it's a great shorthand for the things in life that we know are there but can't actually grab hold of. Do you feel like that makes poetry more interesting or just more confusing?
Okay, so the next question is that what does a breath of fresh air mean?
It's basically a way of saying something is a relief. It's usually used when a new person, a new idea, or even a change in scenery comes along and breaks up a stale or boring situation. It's that feeling of finally getting a break from the same old thing. Yeah. Have you had any breath of fresh air moments lately? You've been on a roll.
What does the phrase in the air mean?
You've been on a roll with these idioms. That one's all about intuition. When something is in the air, it means it's being felt or sensed by everyone, even if it hasn't been officially said or decided yet. Like when you walk into a room and you can just tell people are excited or tense. It's a feeling that's present, but not quite tangible. Do you usually pick up on those kinds of vibes in a room?
Okay, so the one last and final question I'm gonna ask you is that why can air be described as breathing life into language?
Such a poetic way of putting it. When people talk about breathing life into language, they mean taking something that feels dry, stiff, or mechanical and making it feel human and alive. It's like the difference between reading a technical manual and hearing a story that actually makes you feel something. It's about adding emotion, rhythm, and a bit of soul to words. So they don't just convey information, but actually resonate with someone. It's basically the magic that turns a sentence into a connection.